My girlfriend texted, "Pay me $5,000 or I'll ruin you." I replied, "Send it to my lawyer." She thought old screenshots, edited messages, and fake stories would scare me into paying. I saved everything, filed a police report, and watched her blackmail plan collapse in court. Original post: I'm Landon, 32M. My girlfriend, Vanessa, 28F, and I were together for just under 2 years. We lived in Tampa, Florida, in an apartment I had been renting before we met. The lease was in my name only because she moved in after her roommate kicked her out for what she called personality differences. That should have been my first warning. I work as an accountant for a regional construction supply company. Vanessa worked part-time as a front desk coordinator at a wellness spa called Harbor Glow. She was beautiful, funny, and very good at making people feel like they owed her something. Not directly, never that obvious. It was always wrapped in emotion. "After everything I've been through, you're really going to say no? I thought you were different. I guess I just care more than you do." At first I thought she was sensitive. Then I thought she was insecure. Then I realized she was strategic. She had a pattern. She would create a crisis, wait for me to fix it, then act like my help proved I loved her. If I did not help fast enough, I was cold. If I asked questions, I was controlling. If I said no, she cried. If crying failed, she punished. Silent treatment. Vague posts, calls from her friends, random accusations. Still, I stayed longer than I should have. The final month was awful. She had started borrowing money again. First $200 for car insurance, then $380 for a medical bill, then $150 because her paycheck was delayed. I asked to see the bill once and she said, "Wow, you really don't trust me at all." I said, "I trust receipts." She did not find that funny. The truth came out on a Friday night. I got home from work around 6:30. She was on the couch, scrolling through her phone, acting irritated before I even said hello. I said, "Rough day." She said, "Don't start." I had not started anything. I went to the kitchen and saw an envelope on the counter from my bank. I opened it and found an overdraft notice on the secondary checking account I rarely used. The account had been linked to my old debit card for online subscriptions. There were 6 withdrawals I did not recognize. Cash app transfers, $300, $300, $250, $400, $175, $500, all to Vanessa. I walked into the living room and held up the paper. "Why are you transferring money from my account?" She didn't look shocked. That was the part that made my stomach drop. She said, "I was going to tell you." I said, "Then tell me." She sat up and rolled her eyes. "I needed help." I said, "You stole from me." She stood up. "Don't use that word." I said, "What word should I use for taking money without asking?" She said, "We live together. Couples help each other." I said, "Couples ask." Then she changed. Not crying. Not apologizing. Cold. She walked to the bedroom, came back with her phone and said, "You might want to be careful with how you talk to me." I stared at her. She said, "I have screenshots, Landon." I said, "Of what?" She smiled. "Of you, of your temper. Of the things you said when we fought. Of you admitting you locked me out. Of you saying nobody would believe me." I had never said that, not once. I said, "Show me." She said, "No, you don't get to prepare." That was when I realized this was not an argument, it was a setup. I said, "Pack a bag tonight. We'll arrange pickup for the rest later." She laughed. "You're kicking me out after everything I have on you." I said, "I'm ending this after you took money from my account." She said, "Fine. But if you do this, I'm not going quietly." I said, "That sounds like a threat." She said, "Take it however you want." I slept in the guest room with the door locked. She stayed in the bedroom and spent half the night typing. I could hear her nails tapping the screen through the wall. At 7:14 the next morning, she texted me from the bedroom. "Pay me $5,000 for emotional damage and moving costs or I'll ruin you." I read it twice. Then another message came in. "I'll send everything to your job, your mom, your friends, and the police. Don't test me." I sat on the edge of the bed, calm, almost too calm. I typed back, "Send it to my lawyer." I did not have a lawyer yet. But I had Google screenshots, bank records, and enough common sense to stop talking. She opened the guest room door without knocking, still holding her phone. "You got a lawyer?" I said, "I will." She said, "You're insane." I said, "You asked for $5,000 or you'd ruin me." "That's blackmail." Her face flickered, just for half a second. Then she said, "It's not blackmail if it's true." I said, "Then send it to my lawyer." She threw my hoodie at me and called her friend Kendra to pick her up. Before she left, she said, "You'll beg me to fix this." I said, "No, I'll document it." Update 1: 4 days later, the first thing I did was call my bank. The second thing I did was change every password. The third thing I did was find an attorney. His name was Malcolm, and he specialized in civil disputes and harassment. The consultation cost $300. I told him everything: the transfers, the threats, the fake screenshots she claimed to have, the $5,000 demand. He said, "Do not speak to her by phone, do not meet her alone, preserve everything. File a police report for the unauthorized transfers and the extortion threat." That word hit harder when he said it: extortion. I filed the police report that afternoon. The officer was calm, almost bored, until he saw the text: "Pay me $5,000 or I'll ruin you." He looked at me and said, "She put that in writing?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Helpful." That was the first time I laughed in 3 days. Meanwhile, Vanessa started her campaign. Kendra texted me first, "I hope you're proud of yourself. She's crying and scared because you threw her out with nothing." I replied with one screenshot, the $5,000 text, no caption. Kendra read it and did not respond. Then Vanessa's cousin Riley messaged me on Instagram. "You know blackmail only works if someone has something to hide." I replied, "Correct. That's why I filed a police report." Blocked. Then came my mother. Mom called me around 8 p.m. and said, "Honey, what is going on?" "Vanessa sent me something strange." My chest tightened. "What did she send?" My mom said, "Screenshots of you saying she was crazy and nobody would believe her." I closed my eyes. "Mom, did the screenshots show dates?" She paused. "No, did they look like normal texts?" Another pause. "Not really. The bubbles looked off." I said, "Send them to me." She did. They were fake, badly fake. The font spacing was wrong. The timestamps were missing. One message used a phrase I have never used in my life. Another had my contact photo from my current profile, but the conversation supposedly happened a year earlier when I had a different phone and no profile photo. I forwarded everything to Malcolm. Then I called my mom back. She said, "I knew something felt wrong." I said, "I'm sorry she dragged you into this." My mom said, "Don't apologize for someone else's mess." That helped. On day 3, Vanessa came back to the apartment while I was at work. The doorbell camera caught her standing outside with 2 tote bags and sunglasses on. She tried the old keypad code. I had changed it. She tried again. Then she looked into the camera and said, "You're making this worse." I saved the clip. She left a note taped to the door. "Last chance. $5,000 by Friday." After that, everyone sees the real you. I did not touch it with my bare hands. Maybe dramatic, but I was learning. I took photos, put it in a plastic folder, and sent a copy to the attorney. By day 4, Malcolm sent the cease and desist letter. It demanded she stop contacting me, my family, my employer, and my friends. It told her to preserve any alleged evidence because knowingly distributing fabricated material could expose her to legal consequences. It also demanded repayment of the unauthorized transfers, totaling $1925. The letter cost $450, worth every dollar. Vanessa's response came from a new number. "You really think a letter scares me?" I did not reply. Then another. "You'll wish you paid." I screenshot both. Silence became my favorite weapon. Update 2: 3 weeks later. 3 weeks later, she escalated exactly the way Malcolm said she might. She contacted my job. I work in the accounting department at Branton Supply Group. Not exactly a place where personal drama blends in quietly. She emailed our general HR inbox from a new Gmail account with the subject line, "Concern about employee conduct." The email claimed I had financially abused her, locked her out of our home, and threatened her if she told anyone. She attached the fake screenshots. She also attached a photo of herself crying in my apartment hallway, which was probably taken the day she came back and failed to get in. HR called me into a meeting the next morning. My stomach dropped when I saw my manager, Helena, sitting with the HR director. Helena said, "Landon, we received a serious complaint." I said, "I know who sent it." The HR director asked me to explain. I kept my voice even. I said my ex-girlfriend transferred money from my bank account without permission. When I ended the relationship, she demanded $5,000 or threatened to ruin me. I filed a police report and retained an attorney. The screenshots she sent are fabricated, then I opened my folder. Police report number, bank records, the $5,000 text, doorbell footage, the cease and desist letter, the fake screenshots with missing timestamps. The note taped to my door. The HR director looked through everything carefully. Helena did not say much. Finally, HR said, "We'll document this internally. She is not to contact employees here again. If she appears in person, building security will be notified." I said, "Thank you." Helena walked me back to the elevator afterward and said, "For what it's worth, the email felt strange before you even explained." I said, "Strange how?" She said, "Too polished in some places, too messy in others, like someone trying to sound like a victim and a lawyer at the same time." That described Vanessa perfectly. The next week, Vanessa tried the fake crisis. She texted my brother Dawson from an unknown number, "Please tell Landon I'm pregnant and he's ignoring me." Dawson called me immediately. He said, "Please tell me this is fake." I said, "Almost certainly." He said, "What do I say?" I said, "Nothing. Send me the screenshot and block." Vanessa and I had not been intimate in over 2 months before the breakup because every conversation had turned into a fight or a demand. Also, she had sent a group chat message months earlier joking that she was never having kids because they ruin your body. Could she have been pregnant? Technically, anything is possible, but the timing and delivery were obvious. I forwarded the screenshot to Malcolm. He replied, "Pattern of coercion. Keep it." Then she contacted my ex of all people. A woman named Brooke, who I dated years before Vanessa. Brooke and I were not close, but we were civil. Vanessa found her through Facebook and messaged her, "Did Landon ever scare you? I'm collecting statements." Brooke sent me the screenshot with one line, "What the hell is this?" I replied, "Blackmail attempt after breakup. Already with attorney." Brooke said, "Want me to write a statement saying you never scared me?" I said, "Only if you're comfortable." She did. Simple, clear, not emotional. I dated Landon for 11 months in 2019. He was never threatening, abusive, or aggressive toward me. Vanessa would have hated that. Her story depended on people filling in blanks with fear. Instead, the blanks started filling with receipts. 2 weeks after the HR email, Malcolm recommended applying for a protective order if she continued. I hoped we would not need it. Then Vanessa showed up at my apartment building again, this time with Kendra. The building manager, Lewis, called me. "Landon, there are 2 women here asking for your unit number. One says she used to live with you." I said, "Do not give it to them." Lewis said, "Already didn't." "One of them is filming me." I said, "Call security." Kendra yelled in the background he stole her belongings. That was new. I had boxed Vanessa's things and stored them neatly in the hall closet. Clothes, shoes, makeup, spa uniforms, documents, random candles, hair tools. Everything labeled. I had texted through Malcolm offering one supervised pickup window. She had ignored it. Now she was claiming theft. Lewis asked them to leave. They refused. Security came. Vanessa started crying and saying she just wanted her things. Lewis later sent me the incident report and lobby camera clip. In the video, Vanessa is crying until security turns away. Then she looks straight at Kendra and smiles. Tiny smile, but visible. That clip did more for my peace than any apology could have. Not because it proved she was evil, because it proved I was not crazy. Final update. 3 months later, the protective order hearing happened 7 weeks after the first blackmail text. By then, the folder was thick, Bank records, screenshots, police report, attorney letter, HR email, fake messages, doorbell footage, lobby footage. Messages to my mom, brother, ex, and workplace. The note taped to my door. The pregnancy claim. The stolen belongings claim. Vanessa arrived at court wearing a cream sweater and no makeup. The soft version. The fragile version. The version designed for rooms with authority figures. Kendra came with her, but she looked less confident than before. The judge asked Vanessa why she had contacted my employer. Vanessa said, "I was scared and needed protection." My attorney asked, "Protection from what?" She said, "From him ruining my life." Malcolm showed the $5,000 text. "Pay me $5,000 or I'll ruin you." The judge read it silently, then out loud. The courtroom went still. Vanessa said, "I was emotional." The judge said, "Emotional does not explain a dollar amount. That sentence will live in my head forever." Then came the fake screenshots. Malcolm did not need to do anything dramatic. He simply showed the originals from my phone provider, the metadata issues, and the fact that the alleged messages had no matching records. Vanessa said she had deleted the originals. The judge asked why. She said, "Trauma." The judge looked tired. Then the HR email came up. The judge asked if she had sent it after receiving the cease and desist letter. She said, "I don't remember the exact dates." Malcolm provided the exact dates. She sent it 8 days after the letter. The protective order was granted for 1 year. No direct contact. No third-party contact. No workplace contact. No contact with my family. She had to stay 300 feet away from my home, job, and vehicle. The unauthorized transfers were referred separately. I did not expect some dramatic criminal movie ending, and that is not what happened. She eventually agreed through mediation to repay $1925 in monthly payments of $175. The first payment arrived 2 months later. As for her belongings, Kendra picked them up from a storage facility. I paid $96 for 1 month of storage just to remove the final excuse for contact. Everything was documented, photographed, and signed for. The funniest part, Kendra apologized, not dramatically, not emotionally. She just said she didn't tell me about the money demand. I said I figured. Kendra said, "I'm sorry I helped." I said, "Thank you for saying that." And that was it. I moved apartments after my lease ended, not because I was scared, because I wanted a clean start. I found a smaller place in St. Petersburg, closer to the water with bad parking and better light. I bought a new couch, changed my phone number. Started going to a boxing gym even though I am terrible at boxing. Got promoted to senior accountant after surviving our quarterly audit without losing my mind. My mom says I look rested now. Dawson says I look boring again, which from him is a compliment. I also started seeing someone named Natalie. Slowly. Very slowly. She knows the short version. Not every screenshot, not every ugly detail. Just enough to understand why I flinch when someone says we need to talk with no context. She is patient. More importantly, she is direct. If she is upset, she says why. If she needs something, she asks. If I say no, she does not threaten to email my employer. Low bar, maybe. Beautiful bar, honestly. The last thing I heard about Vanessa was from Louis, the old building manager. Apparently, she came back once after the order, saw the notice at the front desk that she was not allowed to access my unit, and left without incident. Good. I hope she gets help, I mean that. But I also hope she gets it far away from me. The lesson I learned is simple. Blackmail works only when fear makes you participate. The moment you stop negotiating and start documenting, the whole thing changes. Do not argue with threats. Save them. Do not defend yourself in paragraphs. Preserve evidence. Do not meet alone. Do not try to prove your innocence to people committed to misunderstanding you. Let facts do what panic cannot. And one more thing. When someone says, "Pay me or I'll ruin you," believe the threat. But don't believe the outcome. They can try to ruin your name. They can send fake messages. They can cry in lobbies, email your job, call your family, and rewrite the story 10 different ways. But truth has a quiet advantage. It does not need editing. If you've ever had someone threaten, blackmail, or twist the truth after a breakup, comment below and tell me how you handled it or what you think Landon should have done. Please subscribe, like, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it.